Supermassive Games have made some of the most memorable horror games of the last decade, pretty much inventing their own genre of horror gaming where it's interactive drama. Basically what these games are is that, have you ever watched a horror movie and think that character is stupid? If I'm in their shoes, I would have done something different. That's basically the idea around this whole genre of gaming that Supermassive Games have created and have become known for over the last decade plus. Basically, you control a group of characters and you make choices as them and just basically try to get them all to live throughout the course of the game. Anyway, some of these games are incredible, some are frustrating, others have amazing ideas that never quite come together, and a couple I honestly don't think they're worth your time at all. Now that Directive 8020, the newest entry in their catalog, is finally out, I thought it was the perfect time to rank every modern Supermassive Games horror title that I've played in this genre. I'm not just putting them in numbered lists, I'm also sorting them into 4 categories. Not recommended, get only if on sale, recommended, and must play. And I'll be judging them based on their story, characters, pacing, atmosphere, replayability, choices, and consequences, and ultimately one simple question: is this game actually worth your time and money? Again, these are just my opinions, so if you completely disagree with my ranking, let me know your list in the comments. I always enjoy seeing where other people place these games. With that said, let's start with the games I can't simply recommend. The first entry in our list and into the not recommended tier is Medan. This game has an extremely slow start, like really slow start. Outside of the prologue, which was great, there's about an hour of the game at the start that should be used for character development, but these characters are simply so one-dimensional. I mean, overall, throughout the stories, we get to see their deepest, darkest fear manifest throughout the Manchurian gold in the ship, but I just can't help but think of how one-dimensional and basic these characters are. On top of that, if a character dies, another character will simply replace them in the cutscene, making these quote-unquote inner fear that the Manchurian gold exposes them feel a lot less personal to each character. The setting of the ship also got really boring after 30 minutes. It's just walking around a bunch of tight corridors and the camera continuously glitches. It's just not a very good setting at all for 3-4 hours straight. And then I think the major issue, and probably the biggest issue, is that it revealed the plot twist way too early.
Some sort of hallucinogenic bioweapon developed in China during World War II. And we know that it was super unstable and leaked all over the ship. So maybe it's still here? Maybe it hasn't dispersed after 70 years and it's having the same effect on us, you know? Paranoid hallucinations. All this crazy shit we're seeing, none of it's real.
The crew was hallucinating.
This make pretty much any choices from then on really black and white. Like, you just know exactly what choices to pick once you know that everything you're seeing is hallucination. It also made the ending extremely underwhelming, and it also removed all the replay value, which is one of the best things about these games, is the fact that you can go back and change the story, maybe try to save all characters if you had a few killed, maybe see how the storyline would have developed differently if you had different choices. But with these kinds of it's all fake plot twists, it basically made the game have no replay value at all. The game itself, I think, would have been entirely better if it was just the prologue, because the characters in the prologue are far more interesting, especially the ones with family that they had to go back to right after the war ended and they're all relieved, wanting to go back home. They have military equipment. It would have been a better setting. Would it have made the game climb up this list a significant amount? I'm not sure. I mean, just overall the concept and the setting itself was never really that exciting to me. The only good part of the game was the half an hour, this hour marked from when the pirate first took over the boat to when they first got into the ship, which I thought was kind of intriguing to start, but anything other than that, this game is just, to sum it up with one word, boring. Boring story, terrible plot twist that's revealed way too early, and characters that I simply could not give 2 shits about. Next entry into the not recommended category is the casting of Frankston. This one is Supermassive Games' collaborative effort with Dead by Daylight, and it's safe to say that it was a massive failure. First of all, again, just terrible pacing throughout the entire game. It was boring, and it never actually led to any answer. It didn't really answer any of our questions. The storyline barely developed. The only good part throughout the middle of the game was like the 80 settings, but even then it was quite boring at times. The story was just overly convoluted and confusing, switching timeline between past and present, and there's like 3 different timelines at once. And then the characters in the present time never really got into any trouble until like the last half an hour, 40 minutes of the game. That's probably like the only good part of the entire game, to be honest, maybe outside of a few segments from the 80s timeline. The game was also way too short and leaves more questions than answers, and apparently it had major storylines cut and major game time cut because they ran out of budget or something like that, and I could tell because the pacing in this game was horrible. Some of the chapters took like an hour to get by. Some of the chapters went by after like 2 dialogues in 5 minutes. It was clear there was a lot of content cut from this game, which again explains how there was barely any action throughout the game. It also explains why the story was super convoluted and never got to really answer any of the question that it gave us. It's just an overall really boring game that also barely had any choices that mattered, because in the end there was only about one ending. Serious. Obviously there's a lot of variation of who lives, who dies, you know, what their dialogues are, maybe the way that you got to the ending was different, but it's just the most linear storyline of any of Supermassive games. The camera minigame was also like super boring, and it's easily the worst of all the gig that Supermassive game had. The heartbeat game for the dark pictures, the stealth element in the new Directive 8020 games, the don't breathe and the don't move mechanic, and then the camera one is just easily the worst of all of those. Gameplay wise, I like that there was a lot more involvement in terms of gameplay, so you know, characters can climb, can crouch, there's some puzzles here and there, but it wasn't incorporated that much into the game. I like the feature where you can go back and see the choices you make, what choice led to what branch. You can see all the branching paths of the storyline, which would be cool if the storyline wasn't the most linear of all the games. It just felt like you wasted so much out of your life into a game where you're missing big chunks of story elements, a lot of unanswered questions, and basically an ending that was decided as soon as you boot up the game for the first time, where the bad guy wins. I get that it's a Dead by Daylight thing, and that's how the storyline needs to go to make sense in the Dead by Daylight universe, but come on, not every ending needs to be canon to the Dead by Daylight universe. It's a multiverse for a reason, so just give us a multitude of endings. And it just felt like, what, a 6-7 hours long advertisement for the new character rather than actually a unique gaming experience. So yeah, definitely not recommended at all. Coming in at number 6 in our entrance to the second category is Get Only If On Sale. Number 6 is The Devil in Me. This is just a very sloppy game in general. It was enjoyable for many parts, but it's still not a good game. Let's go through those things that I liked first. I liked that it was genuinely scary and creepy at times, which a lot of these games aren't, especially even though they're labeled as horror. I like the addition of more gameplay elements, like puzzles, like the inventory system, the balancing mechanics. These just need to be fleshed out more. I felt like they just added it for the sake of adding it and never really like going all in on it, so it just felt kind of half-baked. Overall, it just felt like a game that was rushed to the finish before it got to flesh out all of its unique ideas that it brought to the table. And you could just tell that it was definitely rushed to finish because of how buggy it was when it first released. Overall though, the story was just okay. It has some pacing issues, especially towards the start. The mystery was okay. The plot twist didn't really reveal much. Oh, it turns out Mr. Dumet isn't the guy that originally met them. It's just a slasher story. Just a guy inspired by the killer H.H. Holmes and has this kind of like labyrinth of a castle, of a hotel, and he tries to kill people. That's it. That's basically the whole storyline sums up. The characters in the games are kind of hit or miss. For the most part, they're kind of one-dimensional. There's not much to them, which is bad, obviously, because in these type of games, you want the player to like the character so that they want to keep the character alive. If the players don't really care about the character, it's not gonna be great. It's not gonna be great at all. Again, it just felt like a game that was half-baked, rushed to finish. I mean, it was entertainment at parts, especially towards like the second half of the game, but I thought it was a lot more interesting when the killer was in that jigsaw element where he's forcing you to choose between you or like your friend, or having to choose between your 2 friends, which made a lot of the choices really interesting. But then they just completely scrapped that halfway through the game and have the killer just turn into a mindless slasher Michael Myers walking around with superpowers trying to kill you, and then after that the game just got way less interesting. So it's just okay. it could have been much better. Only get it on sale. Number 5, Directive 8020, the newest addition to the Dark Pictures anthology and the start of season 2. Much like the Devil in Me, it could have been much better with a lot of the new elements it brought to the game, like stealth, like the messaging systems, like some extra puzzles. But again, most of the ideas feels half-baked and way too repetitive, especially stealth element. Stealth elements was something that's supposed to be like a really fun addition, and it's actually like a lot more skill-based than the heartbeat mechanic or the QTE, but then it just felt like they relied on it way too much. I'm not even exaggerating. I would say like a third of your gameplay time is going to be spent on just trying to sneak past an enemy, and all of these sequences just felt so linear, and it just felt so predictable, and it just felt like you're doing the same thing over and over again, just with a different person each time, and it's just not fun. There was no rising state. It just felt like the same sequence that you had to do 100 times throughout your playtime. Again, some pacing issue. I mean, for a crew that's supposed to be smart, it took them so long to get to the conclusion that the aliens were mimicking them. I mean, way longer than the players did. It also just tried to get way too fancy with its storytelling and philosophy. Again, most of its ideas seemed half-baked, like the humanity over survival, whatever. Lean into it more, make it more philosophical. Again, with these ideas, it just felt like they are in a meeting room, someone come up with an idea. They're like, you know what, that's a really good idea, but we're too scared to fully commit into it, so we're only gonna commit halfway. I don't know if they're scared to do it or if they're rushing to get these games finished, and these ideas are never ever fully come into fruition. Most of these Supermassive games really come down to good idea, horrible execution. Too fancy with the storytelling. There's too many things involved. Williams, the twist that they're all clones is just unnecessarily convoluted, and again, removes replay value because you're like, well, they're just clone. I mean, there's a lot of moral question involved, like, are they human? Have you made them human? Like, you've give them conscious, make them human, you've give them a soul, and you're sending them to their death. Again, you could like lean into that a lot more, but instead the game addressed it like 3 times throughout the entire runtime, the actual moral dilemma of the thing. It's just some interesting ideas just never really come into fruition. Overall, it's just some really high highs and really low lows. Again, with the overall issues that the Dark Pictures games always have, like terrible motion capture, bad graphics when it comes to the characters that it seems to never be fixed, you know, just the issues that they usually have. The bad pacing, again, another issue that they usually have. I think the part where they had to explore the planet was cool. I thought the messaging system was cool if it got into play more. I didn't like how there weren't that many choices with big consequences until like the last half of the game. And most of the choices at the start of the game doesn't really affect your gameplay that much, maybe except for like 1 or 2. Overall, it's okay. It's okay. I didn't mind it, but it wasn't a game that I would ever really go back and replay or really recommend to anyone. So yeah, if you're really into this type of game, go get it if it's on sale. If not, don't even bother. Number 4, Little Hope. If there's a game that I would say that is the potential man of the Supermassive games, maybe this one. It had the highest potential of all the Dark Pictures games. It had great storytelling with some really dark themes explored here, especially related to the Salem witch trial. And then the overall idea of Andrew as a character creating other characters to cope with the loss of his original family members was really interesting. It was intriguing. It was great. But again, lean more into it. This could have been more of a character study piece than just a straight horror game. But again, they didn't really want to lean into it. I don't know if they thought they wouldn't translate well in the mainstream, especially amongst all the like popular streamers who play it. I'm not sure if they were too scared to fully lean into the idea. But either way, this could have been so much better. It had a great mystery to begin the story. It had great heavy Silent Hill inspiration. I mean, it was a game that I was just super invested in. And again, this could have been a much better game if they handled the plot twist better. Revealing that everything is fake removes the replay value. I think that it could have worked, and I think it would have worked if this was the first game in the franchise to try the twist, because they already did it with Medan, and so to have back-to-back games to reveal the twist that everything is fake really just ruined everything. If this was like the 3rd game in the franchise and with the first time to pull that twist, and if it pulled it off better, they could have built it up more. And if they had fully leaned into the fact that this is the character study piece about Andrew, about grief, loss, this could have been fantastic. It could have been easily the best Dark Pictures game. It really could have been. But again, it's an okay game that could have been much better. The ceiling for this game is so much higher than any of the game that we've had so far in this list. And it's kicking off our top 3 is the Quarry. The most slow start of all time. It had a pretty good prologue. And then the next like hour to hour 30 was just really boring. It had a story with a lot of plot holes where the more you think about it, the more you're like, that just doesn't add up. Why didn't Travis just tell Laura that Chris was his brother and that he was unavailable on the first night of camp when Laura tried to go a night early? And then you're telling me that after 6 years of not being able to find Silas, Laura and the crew show up and all of a sudden they can find Silas right away? Why didn't Travis just tell them that Chris wasn't the first werewolf to begin with, so they would just go for Silas instead of killing off his entire fucking family? And why didn't Caitlin realize that Jacob messed up the van? She could have said something and got them all home. It also had a terrible ending, a very underwhelming finale with Silas, and the game just wraps up with almost no story having a great conclusion. We just have this really weird like end credits scenes where they gloss over all of the characters who lived, who died, who's still werewolf. And Until Dawn had a very minimalist ending. The Quarry didn't even have that. It just ends so abruptly. And it was also a lot more watching than playing, more so than any other games in this franchise. With that being said, it's still very entertaining. Just turn your brain off and enjoy. It had an intriguing mystery to start. Who are these hunters in the woods? What are they doing? You know, are those bears? Are those not bears? Stacked cast, great motion capture, stunning graphics. Really nice to play with friends. And it just can't be cheesy. Think of it like a pre-2000s or even early 2000s slasher movie. It isn't the best critically, and the more you think about it, the dumber it gets. But it's just so fun to watch and to play, especially if you have like 3-4 friends over, just on the couch, co-op, just enjoying the game. It's still a really good game when you think of it like that. Just don't expect anything too crazy. It's certainly miles behind Until Dawn, but it's still a good game. This game should have never been in contention with Until Dawn, to be honest. I think I would have put this into the recommended category if they didn't try to sell this game at the most expensive AAA price tag possible, given that it felt like it was more movie than actually playing the game. So if they just like lowered the price tag, I would definitely recommend this game. The hefty price tag, the fact that you're watching more than you're playing, just don't expect this to be as good as Until Dawn. So yeah, if it's on sale, definitely get it, especially if you're a fan of these type of genre. If not, I wouldn't really touch it. Next up into our recommended category, we start with House of Ashes. This is easily the best of the Dark Pictures game, and probably like one of the most underrated game ever. Period. Probably the only Dark Pictures game that doesn't have major pacing issue, especially towards the start of the game. Like, we really got going. The prologue was great, and then we got going right away. We're into the war zone immediately, and then we're into the temple with the vampires, the quote-unquote vampires. The my enemy of my enemy is my friend theme was really good. It led to some of the most memorable moments in the franchise, like Cthulhu and Kurum in the prologue, and then with Jason and Salim's relationship, one of the best things that the Dark Pictures had ever produced. It easily also has some of the best dialogues and overall character writing, especially with Jason.
I ordered for her to stop, loud and clear, but she didn't. She just kept on walking. I had to make a call. Nick, he shot her dead.
What was in the bag?
Groceries. This bullshit. I'm not here to honor the dead. Truth is, my life was going nowhere fast. I jumped at the chance to sign up.
We all have our reasons. They don't have to be profound.
Profound, huh? When those towers were hit, I was stoned out of my fucking skull. How's that for profound? I don't even know what the fuck I'm doing here. That woman had a family, friends. She had her whole life in front of her, and we snuffed it out with a single bullet. I mean, what the fuck?
Really, really well done. I think it would have been even better if they just ditched the whole love triangle between Eric, Rachel, and Nick. It didn't really add much to the game. It was fun at the start, be like, oh, who's she gonna pick? Oh, it depends on my choice. It's kind of cool that way, but it wasn't really needed. Overall, had a great story, especially the twist that the vampires weren't actually like underground vampires, but they're alien. Just got infected with parasite. It led to the crew discovering the alien spaceship at the end of the game. It was really cool. That was like probably one of the best sequences. It's also the Dark Pictures game with the best ending ever, because it doesn't reveal any terrible plot twist that just remove replayability like Directive 80/20, Little Hope, or Medan did, and didn't also have like an underwhelming ending like The Devil and Me did. It had a really great ending that just kept upping the stake and upping the stakes and upping the stake. Oh, they're descending into the ground. Oh shit, it's into the layers of the vampires. Oh, turn out the vampires aren't vampires at all. They're aliens infected with vampiric. Oh shit, we blow up that whole thing. We're out of here now. But wait, it's a fucking eclipse. So now they can go out onto ground level now. And then we have to fend them off for what, 6, 7, 8 minutes in this tiny house all together. Dude, and the best part about this game is if you're playing couch co-op and at the end, bro, going from character to character and you have to pass your controller from one dude to another, just pressing quick time event, trying to survive. If you don't have that experience, go watch Belize's video. It was so hyped. It's easily the most hyped game. And not only was it hype, it also had really good writing, surprisingly, for a Supermassive Games game. Anyway, it's a great game. And certainly the only one from Dark Pictures Anthology that I would strongly recommend to anyone, where I could say with my hand on my chest that this is a great game that most likely you would enjoy. But anyways, moving on to our last and final category and our last and final game, must play Until Dawn. Man, this game is truly lightning in the bottle. Supermassive Games invented a new genre of gaming and a formula in which they would follow for the next decade plus with this game. It had everything. It was scary, cheesy and campy at times, but also really witty and self-aware in its storytelling and vibe that it brought in. It was gory, great witty dialogues, great story, great characters, especially shout out to Josh and Mike. Incredible atmospheres and overall vibes. Brought something new to the table that no one's seen before. An interactive horror movie almost. It was like Cabin in the Woods, the game, but even better. At first it was leaning into horror movie tropes, being kind of cheesy and campy, but it was also really self-aware. It flipped on the ghost hunting stuff. Turns out it was just Josh doing everything. At first it just felt like a standard ghost hunting mixed with some slasher elements, much like the Cabins in the Wood, where it's like every single horror subgenre under the sun. It flipped to something that's a bit more folklore, a bit less mainstream, like the Wendigos. It also tackled onto some mental health stuff relating to Josh's character, which was really well written. It deviates away from your standard horror movie tropes and became a lot more witty and self-aware, and become just a great horror experience. And overall, bro, I can't really say much else. Like, this game can't do no wrong. It's just Supermassive Games' first and also best work. It's safe to say I don't think any game is topping this like any time in the future. And for me, I don't just recommend this game. I think this is like a must play for any gamer. My first playthrough of this game was magical, and seeing all the YouTubers just gather around and play this game. I wasn't old enough to play it when it first released, but I got into it a couple years down the road. I played it, I went on YouTube, I watched everyone played it, and it was just such a unique experience. For someone who's never stumbled upon this genre before, this was something unique. Anyways, hope you enjoyed watching the rankings, and if you did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. I'd also love to hear your own rankings down below in the comment section below. Which Supermassive Games is your favorite? Do you think Until Dawn still sits comfortably at number 1, or do you think another game deserves that spot or even challenge it? And where does the new entry Directive 8020 rank for you? Even though I was pretty critical with a lot of these games, I still think Supermassive has one of the most unique concepts in gaming that I think they just need to commit a bit more when it comes to new ideas and elements that they want to tackle in their game. And honestly, it'd be really good. I have a kind of like a love-hate relationship with these sort of games. I still love them, I still play every new installment. I just hope future releases take better ideas from games like House of Ashes, Directive 8020, flesh them out properly, and finally captures what makes Until Dawn feel so special in the first place. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see ya in the next one. Peace and love.